The small, trembling voice sliced through the cold silence of the top floor like a blade. The CEO, Ahil Rayan, feared by the entire company, known for his impossible standards and colder-than-steel personality, froze with his hand on the conference room door. In front of him stood a little girl with tear-rimmed lashes, clutching a worn-out school bag against her chest as if it were a shield. Her tiny shoulders shook with every breath, and her big brown eyes pleaded for help no one else had dared to offer. Before we continue, if you believe kindness, compassion, and second chances can change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It truly helps the channel reach more hearts. What happened next wasn't part of any corporate routine. It wasn't about power or protocol. It was about a child who had reached her breaking point and a man who didn't know he still had a heart capable of breaking. Ahil had seen that little girl before. She was the daughter of one of his newest employees. Mira Khan, the quiet single mother who worked overtime, took no breaks and never complained even when exhaustion dulled the sparkle in her eyes. She always looked like she was fighting battles no one else could see. But he had never imagined her struggles ran this deep. Now her daughter stood before him, shivering in her worn sweater, whispering words no child should ever have to say. The hallway felt suddenly too big, too silent, too cold. For once, Ahil didn't bark orders or dismiss anyone. He didn't think about meetings, deadlines, or reputations. Something inside him softened, something he thought he had buried with his past. He bent down slightly, his voice low but uncharacteristically gentle, and followed the little girl through the maze of corridors. The building's glossy floors and polished walls reflected the harsh fluorescent lights, but everything felt darker knowing someone was crying alone inside them. The bathroom door was pushed slightly open. From inside came the sound of muffled sobs, the kind of broken, helpless crying that came from months, even years, of carrying too much alone. The moment he stepped inside, Ahil stopped. Mira stood hunched over the sink, her hands pressed to her face, her entire body shaking. Her uniform was wrinkled, her eyes swollen, her exhaustion deeper than anything she'd ever allowed anyone to see. Ahil wasn't used to seeing vulnerability. He wasn't used to feeling responsible for it. He quietly asked Mira if she was okay, but she only shook her head, unable to form words. The little girl wrapped her arms around her mother's waist, whispering apologies for interrupting her work, for being a burden, for everything a child should never feel responsible for. And that's when Ahil realized the truth. This wasn't weakness, this was survival. Standing there, he remembered his own mother crying at their tiny kitchen table years ago, overwhelmed and alone after his father's death. He remembered how helpless he felt, how much he wished someone, anyone, had stepped in. He wasn't going to ignore this. With a steady breath, he quietly ordered his assistant to cancel all his meetings for the day. Then he guided Mira and her daughter to his private office, offering them water, tissues, and silence, until Mira's sobs settled into soft, shaky breaths. She kept apologizing, terrified she would lose her job, terrified her breakdown would cost her the one thing keeping her and her daughter afloat. But instead of reprimanding her, Ahil asked her what was happening, genuinely, patiently. And slowly, the truth unfolded. Mira had been left alone years ago by someone who never looked back. She worked nights at a cafe and days at the company. The bills kept growing. Her daughter had asthma, and the medication was expensive. She couldn't afford proper childcare, so she brought her daughter along despite fear of being fired. She barely slept, she barely ate, she barely existed. The bathroom breakdown was not sudden, it was the result of months of pushing herself until her spirit cracked. Ahil listened, truly listened, for the first time in years to someone else's pain. Her story wasn't unique in the world, but in that moment, it hit him harder than any business crisis ever could. He realized something else too. No one had ever helped Mira because she never allowed herself to be seen. Single mothers were expected to be superheroes, and superheroes weren't supposed to break, but she had. And he wasn't going to let her break again. In a voice soft but firm, he offered her something no one expected from him. He told her she would keep her job. He told her she would receive flexible hours, company-sponsored childcare, and medical coverage for her daughter. He told her she deserved support, not because she was weak, but because she had been strong for far too long. Mira stared at him through tear-blurred eyes, stunned, unable to understand why someone like him would do this for someone like her. And before she could question it, her daughter ran up to him, wrapped her tiny arms around his leg, and whispered, "Thank you," as if he had saved their world. Perhaps he had, without meaning to, without planning to. As days passed, things began to change. Mira found her strength again, not just because of help, but because she was finally allowed to breathe. The office staff softened toward her. Her daughter became the unofficial sunshine of the top floor, and the CEO who once terrified everyone became the quiet protector of two hearts he never expected to care about. But the biggest change happened inside Ahil. He began noticing things he used to ignore, the fatigue on his employees' faces, the silent burdens people carried, the humanity behind the titles, and he vowed to be better, not because it made him look good, but because kindness felt strangely healing. One afternoon, as he watched Mira laugh softly with her daughter in the break room, a sound so gentle it seemed to warm the entire building, Ahil realized something unexpected. He didn't just want to help them, he wanted to be part of their world. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps us create more meaningful stories. Before we end, tell us in the comments, kindness matters. Your words might inspire someone who desperately needs hope today.